Hey there, Weeb Horde. I am the Goblin King, and I've got another really fun anime review for you all this week. It comes from this winter season, and it's another one that's sort of in the vein of Combatants Will Be Dispatched, but definitely even more fun, and not remotely in the isekai vein at all. It's actually more of a comedy slice-of-life anime, but with an interesting little spin. I won't even play around with you all, and I'll just straight up give you the title to the thing this week. It's called Miss Kuroitsu from the Monster Development Department. It seems to have been based on a manga rather than a light novel, surprising given the length of the title. While I did take a bit of a look through the manga, I can't honestly say that I read it. I just read the first chapter and took a look at the second chapter because I wanted to compare some specific things. So I basically came at the anime completely fresh. I can honestly state that I thoroughly enjoyed it. The anime, I mean. So I suppose that I should go ahead and tell you what the anime was about then. It follows the title character, Miss Kuroitsu Toka. She's a young woman who works as an assistant researcher for a certain corporation in Tokyo. The corporation, however, serves as a front for the evil organization Agostia. It may not be an isekai, but it is an alternate world much like ours, with a slight difference. Actually, it reminded me a lot of the world that exists in One Punch Man and similar titles. It's a world of heroes and monsters and evil organizations bent on world domination. Miss Kuroitsu works for one such organization, as the title suggests, in the Monster Development Department. The Monster Development Department is tasked with creating a monster powerful enough to defeat Agostia's main heroic rival, Kenshin Blader. However, in order to accomplish this task, Miss Kuroitsu and her compatriots must find a way to balance the monster's powers and abilities with a strict corporate budget and deal with all the usual bureaucratic corporate nonsense and contradictory demands of her often eccentric superiors. You see why I couldn't help but want to review this one? It just sounded fun as hell. Alright, so there's actually a rather large cast of characters for this show. So I think that I'm going to do what I've been doing and just trim out the characters that don't have a lot of screen time, and just give out the details of those that are in the monster department or interact with them the most. Even then, that's quite a few characters. So let's start with the title character herself then. Miss Kuroitsu is the often put upon assistant to the head of Agostia's monster development department. She's a young go-getter, probably in her early to mid-20s. I don't recall the anime specifying her age though. Who actually seems to find quite a bit of joy in her work and has ambitions to move up in the organization. She is quite aware that she works for an evil organization bent on world domination and doesn't seem to mind this fact at all. She herself doesn't seem to be an evil person at all either. I mean, she doesn't like kick puppies or punch babies or anything of the sort. She's just completely okay with working for Agostia and creating living organisms specifically to defeat her company's rival hero. She also definitely loves the work that she does and actually cares for the monsters that she creates, even innovating new techniques she calls gray areas in order to give the monsters more free will and range to do tasks other than fighting the hero. She actually cares when they get hurt or want something other than battle and doesn't like seeing her creations lose, and not just because they fail to defeat said hero. Like I said, she actually seems to be a morally decent person, despite her job. Dr. Sadamaki Hajime is Kuroitsu's direct superior. He's a laid-back sort of guy who tends to push things back to the last minute, causing Kuroitsu to have to scramble to get things done and fix any problems that may arise from his more nonchalant attitude. His face is rarely seen in the first half of the series due to him always wearing high-tech AR glasses, but it's later revealed that he's actually a pretty boy under the big glasses. Though more laid back, he seems to care as much for his work and the creatures that he helps to create as Kuroitsu, and often will go out of his way to help her find solutions to any issues that arise with them. Wolf Bea is the first monster that we, the audience, are introduced to within the anime. Though he was originally conceived as male, through the intervention of the organization's leader, Wolf is given the body of a girl at the last minute, giving Kuroitsu and the doctor no time to change Wolf's initially male programming, leaving him with the mind of a boy inside a girl's body. This unexpected change left him at a physical disadvantage against Blader, and when he lost, he was instead given a place as a resident staffer within the Monster Development Department. His programming has made him aggressive and very competitive. His situation with his body has him, understandably, a bit temperamental and annoyed, and his sole purpose in working for the Monster Department is to find a way to get his rightful body back and face Blader once again. He is very loyal to and even seems to harbor a crush on Miss Kuroitsu. There are a handful of other monster characters such as Cannon Thunderbird, Hydra, and Melty, but they appear later on in the series and don't appear in every episode the way that Wolf does. Though they're all fun characters in their own right. It would simply take a bit too much time to go into details about them all. Megistus is the chief of staff for the Agostia group and is second only to Akashic in the power structure. Though he has a very menacing character design, very fit for a leader in an evil organization, he actually has a rather pragmatic and even caring personality to those under him within the organization. He pays close attention to worker morale and well-being within Agostia, and works under the aegis that a happy, healthy worker is a more productive one. He also often works as the straight man when it comes to a lot of the gags and jokes within the show. Akashic is the head of Agostia, the de facto leader of the evil organization. She appears as a young girl no older than 11 or so, and often acts the part with a rather flighty personality. Though this seeming hides a power immense enough to allow her to control an entire organization composed of otherworldly beings and monsters. These are pretty much the main characters that you're going to see at least once in pretty much every single episode of the show. There are many more throughout the 12-episode run, as it's a pretty ensemble cast, but they either don't appear as often or appear late enough in the run that it just doesn't feel right to include them, and possibly spoil some stuff for those of you who haven't seen the show. There's Blader himself, of course, the focus of Agostia's ire and the monster department's efforts. The show even reveals his secret identity fairly early on. However, again, I'm not going to really get into him, though he, like the others I've covered here, does tend to make at least a singular appearance in nearly every episode. Overall, the anime, as I stated, was highly entertaining and highly amusing. Perhaps entertaining due to how amusing it was. The entire premise was wonderful, and I kind of dig these shows that are showcasing things from the other end of the hero versus villain spectrum. The evil organization itself is pretty funny, and full of all kinds of quirky characters. Which is standard operating procedure for anime, though, I suppose. The one thing that I think the show could do is make Agostia's reasoning a little clearer. I mean, we know they want to destroy Kenshin Blader and take over the world, but we don't really know why or what their endgame is as an organization. We know some of their rules, which are fairly humanitarian, such as not using terrorist tactics which could harm civilians, which actually just goes along with their rule of not harming civilians at all. This sort of flies in the face of most standard evil organizations, I would think. I don't know if the manga goes into this in more depth or not, but this is why I feel like the anime should. At least a bit. Since a lot of their operating procedure is rather antithetical to the idea of an evil organization. The anime was fairly episodic with no real overarching plot, which I was perfectly fine with. It was a lot more like a sitcom in structure, and that was okay. It fit in especially well with the overall premise and themes. One of my favorite things, I think, about this show was the obvious love that the creator has for traditional Japanese superhero fare, specifically the tokusatsu and magical girl genres. Like, every hero was either a type of magical girl or in the vein of Super Sentai, and all of it was actually glorious to watch. That love for these types of shows really came through in every detail of this show. I mean, magical girls and Sentai-type superheroes aren't really my thing, but I had fun watching this show because I could tell that it was definitely the creator's bag. Everything from the hero designs and the villain designs, down to how the villains operated and actual dialogue, was levelingly recreated in this show with a tongue-in-cheek humor that made it a blast to watch. It was definitely a parody, but it was a parody done out of love. In that way, it was a lot like Seth MacFarlane's show, The Orville, where you know it's a parody of Star Trek itself, but the love that MacFarlane has for the franchise shines throughout the entire show. This anime was much the same way. So yeah, this one was definitely on my recommend to watch list. It's funny, goofy, often outrageous, and lovingly nerdy. But I think that's all I have time for on this one, folks. Let me know what you thought in that handy section down below. While you're down there, keep your eyes peeled for secret bases. I forgot where I put mine. If you happen to like what I'm doing and you want to join the Viridian Horde and join the fight for our popular culture, all you have to do is crush those like and subscribe buttons, like a goblin. If you made it this far into the video, I appreciate it. I'll see you all tomorrow for another pop culture battle and Friday Night Tights. I'll see you all then. Lates.